So here we are at 5 years of Flesh and Blood. And if you were to ask the average Flesh and Blood player who the fastest hero to reach Living Legend in the history of the game is, they'd likely answer one hero, Bravo, star of the show, or informally, Starvo. And while that hopefully remains forever true, during 2024 you've actually seen some of our newer heroes rising through the board with incredible velocity. So today, let's take a look at the fastest climbers on the Living Legend board compared across the entire 5-year history of Flesh and Blood. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, my Flesh and Blood friends. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. And that's right, today we are enjoying 5 years of Flesh and Blood by looking at both the past and the present. Now, heroes who have reached Living Legend status have obviously proven their worth on the battlefield. That said, the Living Legend system is a cumulative system, right? Heroes gain points permanently at whatever rate they do, which means that all heroes eventually will reach Living Legend, whether it be in 6 months or 6 years. And of course, the heroes that do so quickly can generally claim the title of being a good hero. But which heroes have climbed or are climbing the LL ladder the fastest? And today, I answer that question by looking at the top 12 fastest climbers to date, and spoiler alert, it's not all heroes who have LL'd. And in fact, we've seen heroes from 2024 rising with incredible velocity. Kayo, of course, was speedrunning the format during the heavy hitter season, but when Mistveil hit, oh boy, I'm sure many of you have seen the plot showing how during Mist season, Zen earned 31%, New earned 20%, and if the points had been available during Mist that were actually equivalent to heavy hitters, Zen would actually have already LL'd and New would be well on her way. Now, the metric that we're going to be using today is a velocity factor of sorts. Very simply, Living Legend points earned divided by the days that that hero was legal. Now, there are, of course, pros and cons to utilizing this method, but ultimately I landed on it because it shows how long a hero was actually playable. In other words, how long could you have that card in your grubby little hands in the classic constructed format? One counterpoint to this method is an example such as seen with Lexi Livewire. Legal since Tales of Aria in September of 2021, Lexi actually gained over 1,000 points within a period of just a few months in the latter half of 2023. So while she technically gained the bulk of her points at an incredible rate, her legality was over 2 years. However, for this video, I have chosen to focus on a hero's entire legality, and I do so intentionally. After all, this is how long that a Lexi main, for example, was able to play her and get use out of those specific cards. And while I acknowledge that someone picking her up in the summer of 2023 would, yes, have only had a couple of months to play with her, I'm more concerned about a long-time main than I am players picking her up because she's the new hotness at the time. It's also necessary to note that there was a change in late 2023 implementing the weekly checks against LL points instead of the previous method of checking every couple of months. And while this provides a lower cap to LL points, thus likely forever solidifying Starvo as the highest earning at 1580, it also means that the duration of hero legality likewise decreases. And because we are using a velocity metric, this effectively then gets handled in the wash. So let's go ahead into our list. Who is the number 12 fastest climbing hero? Well, that would be none other than Briar, Warden of Thorn. So Briar was legal for 725 days since dropping in Tales of Aria. A bunch of those actually were earned very early, and then she kind of went into a dip and LL'd in the coolest fashion ever in a fatigue deck. Congratulations, that was pretty awesome. So she ended up with 1,158 LL points, with a velocity factor of 1.597. And she sits handily in LL, where she can play ball lightnings and all that stuff now forever, and got some sweet marvels out of the late set. Gotta love it. Next, at number 11, we have the aforementioned Lexi. So Lexi was legal for 773 days, also out of Tales of Aria, of course, ending with 1,276 Living Legend points for a factor of 1.651. Now, as I mentioned, she was actually not doing so great for a long time, and then when the meta was right, after Outsiders, everything was right, lined up for her. Boom, 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 both figuratively and literally throwing those arrows on the table. Okay, nicely done, Lexi, coming in at the number 11 spot. But our number 10 is, that's right, one of the newer heroes, Victor Goldmane, High and Mighty. Dropping in heavy hitters, he's only been legal for 230 days as of the time I did this tally, but has marked up 370 LL points in that time for a velocity factor of 1.65-ish. Okay, so Victor hammering his way, just a great, absolute, phenomenal value deck, right? He's not a fatigue deck. He's just a great value deck, can do great things with the card draw. We expect to see Victor do better going forward, although it's not a super great meta for Guardians right now. But again, when you can just put value on the table, he'll continue to do very well. Right, Dromai Ash Artist comes in at our number 9, legal for 658 days out of Outrising with 1,096 points at a velocity factor of 1.666. Yes, I think that's so apropos for our Ash Artist. Again, so she earned the bulk. She was actually doing pretty consistently well over her, maybe not right out of the gate, but later on she was doing pretty consistently well, but really started to come into her own out of the Lexi meta and kind of into the heavy hitters meta where she eventually LL'd. Moving to number of 8, we have Cranky Grandpa himself, Oldhim, Grandfather of Eternity, also out of Tales of Aria. You'll notice they're all gone, but that's no surprise to anybody. Legal for 647 days with 1,186 LL points and a velocity factor of 1.833. Very interesting play between him and Prism and Starvo back in the day. That's where they were all getting the vast majority of their points. But eventually, he crossed over the edge into Living Legend, freeing us of Icy Hammers. Well, technically the Icy Hammer was already free, but you get the point. Freeing us of Fatigue, Frostbite everywhere. Speaking of Icelander, she comes in at the number 7 slot, legal for 518 days out of Uprising, with 1,012 LL points for a velocity factor just below 2 at 1.954. A lot of people really miss Icelander, and a lot of people were really happy to see her go, taking the Frostbites with her and clearing the way for, that's right, some of the heroes we'd already talked about, specifically, well, Lexi. All right. We then come to many people's favorite hero. I guess Oldhim was a lot of people's favorite as well. In fact, there's a lot of favorites on this list, let's just be honest. But the Prism mains, man, they feed the economy of FaB, don't they? But yes, Prism, Sculptor of Arclight at 480 days legal, earning so many of her points during, the Guardian days, right? Because she was a really good matchup into that. 1,098 LL points for a velocity factor of 2.288, crossing over that 2 line. Good old Prism. We next have Chane, Bound by Shadow, coming in at the number 5 slot, legal for 413 days only, so, year and change, with 1,102 LL points and a velocity factor of 2.668. Chane was gross. Chane remains gross in Commoner. I think he's going to be really good going forward in LL format, but we'll let the kids do their thing. Good old Chane, good old Shackle Chane. Lots of new toys there. In the number 4 slot, we already talked about his speed run during heavy hitters. That's right. Only legal for 230 days with 632 LL points. Kayo Armed and Dangerous to this day remains the 4th fastest climber of the Living Legend board at a velocity factor of 2.748. Now, of course, being a just real solid aggro deck, no reason he can't continue to do well. Obviously, hasn't been earning the points at the same rate was during heavy hitters because of some other heroes, but I think will continue to do very well and will likely take the claw with him at some point in the near future. Next in the 3rd slot is New Alluring Desire, legal for 111 days out of Part de Misfail with 375 points, just munching on Zens during that whole period, and still doing very well today, eating CYBs as it may be, and so on. But velocity factor of 3.378, you see how significantly higher that is than a lot of the folks even in the 12 range. Climbing the charts very quickly and with no real significant stop, because if people don't want to block, she can do what she wants to do. Next in the 2 slot is Zen, Tamer of Purpose, legal for 111 days with 595 LL points and a velocity factor of 5.36. Zen is absolutely climbing the charts. However, he's hit a wall. He's hit a wall of sorts. Now, ever since the bans have happened, he took multiple bans. That's a lot that they threw at Zen to stop him. We did see him win a ProQuest very recently, a ProQuest Europe event, which is very interesting. It's a really cool looking deck. So we will see if that provides some additional momentum to Zen moving forward into kind of the wider format and headed into Worlds. We will see who takes down those 300 points, which will be very significant. But yes, Zen absolutely rocketing. And again, I want to put into context again, had Zen had as many points available during Misfail season as previous seasons we'd seen, he would be gone. So I think they are very, very happy that they decided to derate the point set into that season. Otherwise, we would have had another Rocket Mortgage type scenario. And then at the number 1 slot, surprising absolutely nobody, is Bravo star of the show, but throwing those numbers in front of you just to put them in context. Legal for 140 days, had reached LL long before he actually did because we didn't have the checks in place, which is why he reached 1,582 LL points at a velocity factor of 11.30. So let's just put that in context. 11.30 versus Zen. If we go down to Zen, he was at 5 and then a 3 and then lots of 1s. So Starvo really continues to win. And that's why earlier on I said, and hopefully we'll retain that crown because that was fast, absolutely fast. So that finishes out the list, the 12 fastest heroes from a pure velocity standpoint. And again, I want to remind you, yes, there are pluses and minuses to looking at it this way, but the main plus at looking at how long a hero is legal is that means that's how long you get to play those cards. So a little bit of a catch-22 in a certain standpoint. Better hero, shorter time, or vice versa. Either way, after 5 years, there's a lot of heroes out there that we all love playing. The ones that are gone, they'll come back. And then we can start this process all over again. So thank you, everyone, for 5 years. Thank you to LSS. Have a great weekend enjoying all the 5th year stuff. And you know what, folks? Go Commando.